And action. First, wait. What are you doing? Are you praying? Oh, I'm sorry. All right, let's go before the Father. Let's go before the Father. No, I want you to pray. It was just weird. I'm sorry. Let's go before the Father.
It's AJ.
And Darah. Here we are. Deep skydiving.
Skeep diving.
Skeep diving.
Yeah.
Deep skydiving, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Deep Sky.
Deep skydiving.
Oh, she got it. Go ahead.
I don't know. That's
Go ahead.
not
Do it
really.
again. I missed it.
I don't have much more than that.
Oh, all right.
So, deep skydiving.
Deep skydiving.
Father God, we come before you as humble as we know how, just thanking you so much for just another episode of Deep Skydiving Podcast. We thank you for our guests. We thank you for the followers. We thank you for everybody who listens, Father God. We pray for all of them from the top of their heads to the bottom of their feet, Father God. May they be blessed. May they always uplift your name, Father God. We thank you for the smoothness and the flow of this podcast today, Father God. I pray that you just continue to let my sister be the salt and light of this earth, Father God, continuing to spread your word, continuing to minister to others. I thank you for allowing her to be a leader, someone who I admire and enjoy, Father God. May we just have a good conversation that is glorifying to you. Mm-hmm. And may we keep our hearts and minds clear of anything that is not glorifying to you. And we pray these things in your precious Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
So welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Deep Skydiving. I have Lady Mel here, my sister.
Yes.
So we are going to do the women's episode today. I have literally been talking about this for forever, so I've been so excited.
Awesome.
We're doing a women's episode, just in case you guys aren't up to par. We're doing a women's episode because we did a men's episode 15, I believe. Man Up. What is it? Man Up, or it'll be Man Down. So I thought that was brilliant. But anyway, we had Pastor Mark Francis on, and he was just kind of giving us insight on what it's like to be a man, a leader, being a boy, even being a son. You know what I mean? Like just kind of exploring all the aspects of being a man, a leader, and so forth and so on. Mm-hmm. He talked about his mom. He talked about, just his beginnings and things like that, even his marriage. Mm-hmm. So we kind of wanted to do this because, of course, this podcast is about bringing people together. Mm-hmm. It's about relationship. It's about making sure we have conversations, difficult, good conversations, etc. So, of course, I chose you because I love you so much.
Thank you.
And because you're a leader, you're one of my leaders, and I have definitely enjoyed just having conversation with you just on a personal level. Mm-hmm. But I wanted other people just to be able to kind of explore somebody who is a woman in leadership and a woman in ministry and a woman who is also like a wife, a mother, and so forth and so on. So. Okay.
Well,
I'm going to be asking you questions. No problem. I'll be asking you questions. And, of course, we'll be just kind of like having a conversation, as I said before. Okay. First things first, I wanted to get it like cracking off the top. What does it mean to you to be a woman? A little bit? Boom. Okay.
To be a woman.
Yeah.
Ooh, to be a woman, I would say women are powerful. Mm-hmm. We are nurturers by just trade. I think that being a woman is an amazing opportunity, amazing privilege. And although we're different from men, I love our uniqueness. I love how God genuinely fashioned and formed us. And as the Bible says, we're fearfully and wonderfully made. All of us, whether you're male or female. But being a woman is, definitely, I would say, a privilege of being. And womanhood it starts really from, I would say, 18-ish?
Ish, yeah.
Somewhere up in there. But from the time you're born up until 18, I really do feel like whomever's in your life, whether it's your mother, your grandmother, your aunt, uncle, whomever, that really helps shape you to be the woman that you become. And then from 18 on up, it's more so like life.
Yeah. Yes.
Life shapes you, so you kind of get the foundation from whomever raised you, and you get that instilled in you. And then from that, when life hits, you kind of take what you've been taught and then what you learn and kind of go from there. So
absolutely. So I'm glad that you said that, because you said 18, but when did you first feel like a woman?
Ooh.
Yes, girl. Yes. When did it hit you? Like,
Probably in my 20s.
Okay.
Although I got married at 18. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I woke up the morning of my wedding, was like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? You're just 18.
Yeah.
So I would say really like mid 20s.
So like, would you say like 25-ish?
Yeah.
Which is really ironic because I feel like that's when I started feeling like a woman too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was also at the moment where we had Junior.
I was okay.
So
that was one of my questions.
I guess motherhood kind of brought
you
on
feel
that
like
whole womanhood too.
Yeah. So it was kind of like, you developing more responsibility.
Yeah.
And, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So has it evolved, like the way that you first felt when you first felt like a woman, and then how you feel now? Like, how has that evolved? Like, how would you say?
I would say it evolved based off of maturity. Being a woman, I guess when I first kind of embraced womanhood at 25, from 25 to now, it's more so of the journey.
Okay.
And that kind of helps shape you or kind of help you pinpoint or view womanhood in itself. Everybody have their own journey, their own, way that life serves them. So I would say definitely now it's more so maturity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're always going to be a woman. You're full of emotions. You always have decisions to make, different things of that nature. But I would definitely say maturity.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, like, what do you think that, like, as you've evolved, like, how have you been able to see, like, out the community at large? Because I know that you deal with our community. Why do you feel like the community needs the woman?
Well, a lot of times growing up, sometimes, others don't have that solid foundation growing up, whether it's they've in and out of foster home or adoption, or if they had parents and the parents were just so busy with their career or even ministry. And so I feel like sometimes as a child growing up, when you don't have the foundations taught to you, when you don't have like those important people in your life to kind of steer you, you kind of grow up just making all kind of different decisions, or maybe you didn't make a good decision, which like in the 18 to 20-ish range, and then you kind of end up on this path or on this journey, and a lot of women feel lost. They feel like they don't know what they're doing. They don't know what their purpose is. They don't know how to achieve their purpose. And so I think that having leaders is really important, so that they can speak into their lives, so that they can really help cultivate them, help really shape them, help them to understand how to find purpose, what is purpose, and sometimes, not having a father in your life, you don't really understand your worth, your value. Insecurity is there. Incompetence may try to set in from what, you feel that you can't do. So having a strong leader in your life really will help cultivate and bring that out of you. As a leader, you're very influential. And it's also your job as a leader to really pull the greatness out of a person. So it's really important to have great leaders in the community, so that when you come across a male or female that's maybe in that light, you can help bring them to be the best version of themselves.
Got it. Because and while you were speaking, I mean, something just came to me, like the men, to me, it seems like the men are like the structure and the women are the detail.
Yes.
Right. So like there's a detail about womanhood that I absolutely adore. Right. And I absolutely love the fact that, there are some people who haven't had that structure, right? They haven't had that sort of protective, like, outer. Like, I understand a lot of male leaders, or the ones that I've been influenced by, they're very much about like how this thing is gonna go, the trajectory of the family, the trajectory of like, what this is gonna do. And then it's like the mom or the woman is the one who's like, taking care of those little things. Like if we look at it like a house, like there's a house, there's a foundation. If it's sturdy, like you good, but it's like the pillows and the the sheets curtains. And the curtains, like all of them are us. And like the men, like they may not worry about those little details, but that's why it's important to have both. And so in my opinion, and I think that's exactly what you were saying, like it's fundamental for us to have both. But on
Yeah.
the woman's side, like, you know, we do need those sort of details.
Oh yeah,
You know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So, what kind of woman were you before you got married? Wait, how far into your, like, because you said you were 18, so that literally
Yeah.
like at adulthood.
Yeah.
Was it on your 18th birthday? Was it like right before? Was it like the year after? Were you about to be 19?
It was. I was about to be 19.
Okay.
We got married in March. My birthday is in September.
Oh, okay. So what
yeah.
kind of woman were you? Do you remember?
No. I don't know. Fresh out of high school.
No. You
I
be thinking you know stuff too when you come out of high school. You don't know nothing.
you don't.
You
That's
know
why I woke
nothing.
up the morning of like, what are you doing? Like, you really about to do this? I just knew I was in love and we would make it work because we had God.
I love that.
It was just one of those things where we just kind of knew that we were the one for each other, and with God we could make it work. So I would say the type of woman I carefree.
Yeah.
You know,
You were like a free spirit, like would you say, or
just free spirit, carefree. Still was unsure of career.
Okay.
Didn't really know, which route I was going to take. I had a job. I knew at the time I wanted to be a dental hygienist.
Oh wow.
But Juan, of course, was military, so I was like, okay, how is this going to work? And really just figuring it out. Yeah, it was. I'm a big risk taker.
I see. That's dope though. But that's good. I mean,
yeah.
especially when you have, if you got married at 18, you literally, because you had a covering, like you were, who was your covering at that time?
My uncle.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, and as a covering, guys, I just mean like a man and a woman, like you literally have somebody who is like a father figure to you,
Right.
which is so
Yeah.
important, right?
Right.
So you
Yeah.
literally went from one covering to another.
Yeah, and
So that
yeah,
allows
was
you,
it,
I feel like that allows you to take risks, no? Like,
yeah, I mean, I say that all the time. Like, although I was 18, my father was not in my life. Here and there, he was. So I did feel like it was like a transfer from my uncle and my grandfather were pretty much my covering, who raised me.
Wow.
And then going into Juan's arms, like my mom, she's a powerful woman of God. So I knew with her having the security that she had, I was in good hands because God speaks to her like, I'm talking to you.
Yeah,
So I knew
love
she
that.
had already prayed about it. She was comfortable with him. He knew who he was, had it all together, although he was young. And so it literally felt like I was leaving one covering and leaving one father, going to another father. Although he didn't treat me like a child, it was still that whole protector that I felt with him. So I think maybe that's why I was comfortable.
Yeah.
As far as with marriage, is because of course he had God in his life. He had his, the whole job security, all of that taken care of. And then he just kind of still carries to this day that whole protector type swag.
So that was do you think that was like literally the reason why like you were able to kind of be that sort of risk taker?
Oh yeah,
because you
for
had
sure.
your uncle, because you had your grandfather, because you then had Pastor Juan.
Yeah, and I knew just from my mother and my aunt and my grandmother, they were all very, very important people in my life, and I knew how to be a wife just being raised by my grandfather, just watching my grandmother, and my aunt, which is my mom's sister. She, they've been married now 40 years. My grandparents would have been married now 60 years.
Oh, wow.
So although my mom didn't have the greatest of relationships, she still taught me a lot about being a wife and a mother, things of that nature. But my grandmother and my aunt is who I really saw. And
Okay.
so they really instilled in me, regarding the whole wife role. And
Yes.
how to be. So
was it more of a like watch us? Like was it more of a like I'm going to participate in life and I want you to be able to see us, or what? Or did they ever like sit down with you like, hey, listen, like these are some things that you should know about like how to be a wife and how to be a woman, how to be a sister, so forth and so on?
a little bit of both.
Okay.
More so just me watching their lifestyle, but when the time came for them to have the conversation, like if my grandmother was doing something and she would be like, well, one day when you get your husband, you can do this and you can do that. And my aunt, she would always tell me like prayer is always the key for everything. And although your husband is the head and whatever he says, kind of like go, you still have a say. But even at the end of the day, if you feel like if you all are about to make a decision and you're not really agreeing with that decision, go pray.
Yeah.
Because yes, at the end of the day, we have to submit to whatever they're saying, but still pray about it, because there's many of times where she had done it and then he would come back and be like, you're right. Yes, this and that and other. So those were some of the moments where she would sit me down and talk to me about, when it came to submission. And sometimes if they still kind of are hot-headed after you've expressed your opinion about whatever decision you're getting ready to make, pray about it. So
awesome. And I just wanted to like kind of piggyback off of like even the structure or the way in which you were reared, because I kind of had a similar situation. My dad was present in my life. My parents ended up divorcing when I was 14. So when my mother moved, like we all moved to Chicago, I had my grandfather who was my covering. So it was never a time where I wasn't covered. And then once my grandfather passed away, unfortunately, it was like my mom was like married right after that. Okay. And then I had my stepfather. So I've always kind of had a male there to again provide that structure. Of course, there were some things that happened in my life that caused me to kind of like be less of a risk taker, but I don't think it's because of the men who provided that structure. Right. Because as I've told AJ and as I've told our listeners, my grandfather would sit us down, my sister and I. We never wanted to do it, but he would sit us down, and my grandfather, I'm telling you, like just like you said, your mother talked to God. Yeah. He would like lay across his bed and like just listen to gospel, and like I know he was just filled with the Spirit, because one, it was never like, it didn't matter if it was that he talked to us on Wednesday and then talked to us again on Saturday. It was like God told him to have a conversation with us, and that's what he was going to do. It didn't matter if we were dragging our feet or whatever. But a few things that he covered was he was talking about the protection of a man, having that covering, that sort of level of security that you need to be looking for when it comes to somebody who's going to be the head of your household. And that's what I mean by him providing those structures. Like my grandfather didn't care about like, how many groceries. Like he used to go to the grocery store and buy cranberry juice, a Louisiana crunch cake, chicken. Like it was never nothing that went together. Yeah. But that's not his detail. Yeah. He's like, I get what I need for the house. If y'all want something, y'all are more than welcome to have it. I'm gonna ask y'all if I want something after church. Like y'all want some fish, whatever. But I knew that wasn't his place to do the detail part. Yeah. And like you said, my detail came from my mom. Yeah. And my mom, oftentimes she did talk to us, but it was really more her living her life that was the learned lesson for me, because I'm always watching. But it's the same thing with the men. We're watching them too, whether they know it or not. In anything that they're doing. Like I said, he was laying across his bed. My grandfather probably didn't think about me watching him lay across his bed. Right. But to me, I was like, that's a dope meditation, or that's a dope way for you to lie still and be able to like then hear the Holy Spirit. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
that's how I knew too. Not to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
As far as the type of man that I wanted, because just seeing my grandfather and how he was a provider, and how he was a man of God, and how he took great care of my grandmother, and the same for my uncle, provider, man of God, took great care of her, treated her well. And one thing my grandmother did say, she was like, when you pray about your husband, be specific. Yes. Like pray down to the T. Yeah. And I did. So
I love that.
But that's how I knew what type of husband I wanted, just by watching their lifestyle, watching how my uncle and watching my grandfather, and then of course praying, and God, he definitely answered that prayer.
Delivered. Yeah. So was it one of those things where it all came? Because I want to, especially my single women who are watching this. Is it something that came in the package in which you pray for? Is it something that has evolved to the package that you pray for?
Definitely evolved.
Boom. There we go.
Definitely evolved.
It ain't coming like you wanted it.
Ma'am.
But it came.
No. Yeah. I mean, I was 18, he was 20. We still had a lot to learn.
Of course.
And honestly, by Juan really being around my uncle, it taught him a lot about father or husband and fatherhood. I mean, he has a great father in his life right now. His father worked a lot. Yeah. So, but he was always a great father and a great provider, great husband. So Juan always had those traits. But A lot came by way of watching my uncle, and then just Juan maturing on his own, and then developing a relationship with God on his own.
So was he underneath your uncle's leadership? How did that go? Like, or did y'all just like have Sunday dinner? Like, what did that look like in the courtship?
He actually was stationed in Warner Robins, where my uncle's church was or is now, and he joined the church. And because I'm his niece / daughter, he was around him all the time.
Got it.
And so it would be just from being around, we would have a lot of conversations. And my uncle is the type that he's going to pour into, everyone who's around him, whether it's men or women, it doesn't matter. So Juan learned a lot just by way of being around every day, like, the whole opening the door. Like my uncle, old school, he still does it to this day. So Juan picked up that trait from him. And so to this day, I don't touch the door.
That's right.
Not being cocky, but that's just, he was like,
that's the way he had been taught.
Yeah.
And that's, I like that. So would you say that like, and obviously it's not a monolith, right? Everybody's life is different, but you would advise for the young ladies, the ones that are coming up, like not even ready for marriage necessarily right now,
right,
to have some sort of father figure, right?
Oh yeah.
To, because we don't know.
Yep. No.
We don't know. Like, we don't know men like men know men.
Exactly. But like, for instance, I have a lot of mentees.
Yeah.
So if they're with me and we're riding and driving somewhere, they're immediately like this generation, they just hop out the car. And I'll be like, nope, close the door.
Yep.
And so they'll be like, what's
That's
going on?
Yep.
And so that's my way of teaching them, like, no, this is how you should be treated.
Yes.
And so that's, so they kind of learn from that perspective.
My mom is the same way.
Yeah.
And you don't know when you're younger, you're like, Mom, like, I'm not about to sit in this car and wait for him to open everybody's door. Like, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
But I never forgot that. Like you said, the reason why I thought that or felt like a woman when I turned 25 is because all the stuff that my mom had taught me where I was like, Mom, you're a hater.
Yeah.
It all came back and it was like, oh, like this makes so much sense because I shouldn't be touching my door. But there are things that we have to do too, right?
Oh, yeah.
That we have a role as well.
Yeah.
Again, it's the structure, it's the protection.
Yeah.
And again, there are so many women who have been unprotected and don't have that sort of level of structure that it's hard for them to let somebody open their door. And there are a lot of men too don't have this structure and protection because we be thinking that we're the only ones who be needing a man in our lives, and men need men too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So there, like, I've dated somebody who he was like, why are you opening? Because my mom taught me that if a man opens your door and makes sure that you're in, the least that you can do is make sure that he is able to get in as well safely. Like, make sure that he's okay.
Right.
My way of doing that and her way of doing that, and it's not to say it's, universal, is making sure that I push open his door so that when he comes around the other side of the car, it's already open. He can just grab the door and get in.
That's good.
Yeah. But that's not everybody.
I haven't done that, nor did I think about it, but now I will.
But everybody's like, different. Yes, everybody's different,
Yeah,
but some
that's
people have
good.
been taught
Yeah.
that from a male.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
their fathers or whatever, because I asked my nail tech, she said the same thing. She was like, yeah, my brothers told me the least that you can do is just make
Yeah.
sure that the man gets in safe as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think that's great.
Yeah.
But as we, as young women are around us that do not have their father in their lives, we make sure we teach those values.
Absolutely.
We live them, but we also have sessions with them.
I like that.
Yeah.
Because, you need to know. You need to know why, like, this is the way that we do things. Like, obviously, you can decide what you're going to do,
Right.
but this is it. Like,
Yeah.
this is, yeah.
Yeah.
So, a real good question. How do you separate the person from the ministry? Like, is there a Melanie Wilder and then there's a Lady Mel, or is it just all one big?
That is a good question. I don't separate.
Okay.
But I do. When I'm home, I'm Melanie.
Okay.
I'm wife. I'm in wifey mode, and I'm in mommy mode. But if a ministry call comes through, then I shift that hat. But the whole house understands that I have to shift to that hat for the moment. And after that moment, I take it back off. So, which is what happened today. I was in mommy mode, and an emergency call came in, and I had to shift to first lady mode. But I try to take that off because number one, I don't want my children growing up resenting the ministry because mommy and daddy are so focused on ministry stuff that they don't even pay us no attention.
Quite possible too.
Absolutely.
It happens.
It does.
My dad's a preacher's kid.
Yeah, it does. So we've always said that we would try our very best not to allow ministry to take over, to where they'll grow up hating ministry.
Absolutely.
And then of course with wife, that's first. It's God, then family, then ministry.
Yeah.
So I always have to make sure I make myself available for him as a wife. And then because if he's taken care of, then he's good to go to provide ministry to everyone else.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
yeah.
That's what's up. Even you.
Yeah.
Like even being able to provide for everybody. Like you're that and then everybody.
There we go. That nurturer.
That's dope. So does it ever become difficult like putting on and taking off that hat?
Yeah, it does.
It is?
And
Okay.
actually, Juan does a good job with saying, Mel, we're done with ministry for today.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. Because your mind is constantly, like women, we're thinkers, we're planners. We like to know what we're doing, when we're doing it, how we're doing it. And so.
The details.
Yeah, the details. So he has to sometimes shut that off. Cut it off, yeah. So
But I love that he does that. Like he knows
does.
that it starts there.
Yeah,
It
it's
starts
important
with him.
because we don't want to lose each other in the relationship because of ministry, which
Absolutely.
we've seen done before. So
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
So if you had to put in like your own words, like what would you say is the role of a wife? Even if it's just you, like if you're speaking personally, what do you think that like your role as a wife is?
role of a wife, number one is to make sure that you're meeting the needs of your husband, and that doesn't necessarily mean like that's in all areas.
Yeah.
Emotionally, naturally, sexually, just in every area, making sure you meet the need of your husband, making sure that you're his support. Number one, support, making sure you stroke that ego at all times. That has nothing to do with just doing it just to be doing it. Like that's a real thing.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
It's a real thing. Making sure home is happy, like making sure home is that safe space, because if whether they're in corporate America or ministry, when they get home, like they just need to be able to wind down, just really decompress and download. And so you don't want them to go out, and have a rough day, hard day, and then have to come home and have the same thing,
right,
or come home to a bunch of complaints or nagging or this or that. So really, a wife is really kind of just creating that whole safe space for the husband, making sure that she's the nurturer, that she takes care of home, takes care of him, and really being that support.
Yeah.
Just support. Support goes a long way. It's not just from a woman's perspective. Like men need that support as well.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. Okay, so then I guess in your words, because I know this is kind of like all intertwined, but submission. Because that's like, so you say submission to some people, it's like,
well, you ain't telling me what to do.
Right, they ready to fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is your idea, or in your own words, how can you tell me what submission is?
So a lot of times women think submission is a sign of weakness, and it's not.
Yeah, they do.
It's definitely not a sign of weakness. Submission is more so you showing that you're giving that space to your husband to lead. And at the end of the day, like it's Bible, period. And so if you want to, really obey the Bible, it's, whatever the husband says, whether it's right or wrong, you can give your opinion. Honey, I really don't think, this is kind of like what we should be doing. Here's why. But at the end of the day, if they make that decision, you have to really submit and bow out. But what I will say, and what I did do to Juan, was I was like, look, the way that God structured a husband and wife, you're the head, you make the decisions. And so what I need you to understand is, since you have to make the decisions for us, and if it's not a good decision, me as your wife and your children have to pay the consequences for that. I need you to think hard and clear and pray
Yeah.
before making any decision, because we will have to basically reap the
All y'all in it. Y'all in
consequences
it.
for it. Right. So
A L is a L for the whole team.
yeah. So if you're gonna, lead this family, the least you can do. Not saying you have to be perfect, because you will make some mistakes sometimes.
Yeah.
But I just need you to really, really think long and hard and pray and not be impulsive, because your children and your wife is affected by every decision that you make.
Yeah.
So when we had that conversation, I think that kind of put a little bit more pressure on him
Yeah.
to make sure that he's doing what he needs to do.
So that's the reason why it's so important for when he come home for it to be a peaceful environment, because it's like I got to make all these like real hard, decisions. But one thing I was telling my good girlfriend yesterday while we were out is like that's just the way that it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
Like I always liken it to football, because most men understand football, right?
Yeah.
My whole thing is God is the coach, right? You are the quarterback. Right.
Yep.
And we basically, me and the family, we're the team. So sometimes you're gonna tell us what the play is.
Yeah.
Like this is what we about to do.
Yeah.
Right. And you're gonna make sure that ball gets down the field, and hopefully we're gonna win, or we're gonna get this touchdown.
Right.
Sometimes you're gonna have to run the ball though.
Yeah. Yeah.
But everybody takes the L though. If we don't get it to that touchdown, we all take an L. That's the mission to me.
Yeah.
And that's literally what I have to tell myself, because I realize like that's just the role in which you're gonna have to play.
Yeah.
It's just like when you're born, you don't get to pick your parents.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't get
Yeah.
to pick your name. You don't get to pick the skin that you're born in.
Yeah.
But you learn how to, fall into that role or understand it or love what you've been given.
Yeah.
So that's the same way I look at womanhood. I love being a woman.
Yeah.
I absolutely adore
Me
it.
too.
But I realize that there are a lot of sacrifices that you have to make as a woman. It's not to say that men don't have to make sacrifices, but just understanding. I think that that's something that we don't really teach our young girls, is that the sacrifices that you're gonna have to make have to do with the fact that you are going to then be led by a man who may not always make the right decisions, but you gonna still have to ride with him.
Yeah.
You can't switch teams.
Yeah. No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and
Not
that's
if
what
you
I
want
said.
to.
Like when you like they can, you can go from the Cowboys to whatever, but when you're married, God's not looking for you to switch teams.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And a lot of times, submission too, like people will take it out of context, because submission does go both ways.
Absolutely.
Right?
But
from a man's perspective, it's more so, I feel like it's us coming together, a man and woman coming together. If there's a decision that have to be made, it's more so let's come together and let's work this thing out. Let's plan this thing out together. And it's almost like a give and take. All right, we'll do, this is kind of like how you want to do it. This is how I want to do it. So how can we come together, meet in the middle? So that's more so to me what that whole submit one to another type. But at the end of the day, that man is responsible.
Yeah.
Whether it's
that's
right
what you
or
said,
wrong.
AJ, didn't you? You said it starts with the man and ends at the man.
Absolutely.
Because even he talked about in the beginning, like when Eve ate the fruit, it was like when God handed out. First of all, he called for Adam, like, Adam, where are you?
Yeah.
But when he handed out the consequences, he started with the serpent, went to Eve, and then he ended at Adam.
Yeah.
Like everything starts and ends there.
Yeah.
But again, it's that structure.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter what rocks, stones, whatever you could throw at a house. If it has a good foundation, if it has good walls and all this other stuff, then ain't nothing gonna get through, right? Nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And that's basically why it starts and ends there, because the details aren't gonna keep you. You know what I mean? Like you can obviously survive with just a mother.
Yeah.
That's why I tell people you can survive with just a mother.
Right.
But that structure is something that will carry you even further.
Yeah.
And it's not to say throw away all the people who never had a dad or not
Right,
at
yeah,
all.
yeah.
Because they're just as important, but you still have to have it's important to have that sort of like father figure or
Right.
somebody in your life
Yeah.
who can have that sort of male accountability
Yeah.
for you. You know what I'm saying?
You know, you said something, AJ, you said he was like, it start and end with the man, which is why as women, we have to, as women, we have to be wise as well, because we have to understand too that our husbands have to give an account for us, for our actions, what we do.
Boom.
So every day I'm asking for wisdom. The Bible says, if we ask for wisdom, he'll give it to us freely. So I'm always asking for wisdom, even with being a wife, because the decisions that I make Juan is going to have to give an account for that, you know, and
Absolutely.
so I cannot be out here representing him kind
No,
of
you
ways,
can't.
because again, like you said, God called for Adam, not Eve, although
Right.
she ate the
Yep.
fruit. So if I love him enough, then I'm going to also take that same advice that I gave him. Hey, I need you to think before you make a decision.
Yes.
I have to take that same advice to myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. So you wanted to say something? Okay. Okay. You're writing a letter to your younger self. Little Melanie. What would you say to her?
Oh my gosh, a lot.
Give us maybe three points, like something that's.
I would say embrace the journey.
Mm-hmm.
No matter like what that journey may look like, I would say embrace the journey. I would also say you are good enough. You are good enough.
Yeah.
Writing to my younger self, and from now back then. And let's see what else. Embrace the journey. That's a big one.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
a
you can
huge
really
one.
unpack.
It sounds cute, but it's
No, yeah, it's really a lot.
yeah.
You're good enough, and you know, if you really set your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, little Melanie, you heard her. Because I do feel like you still like carry around little Mel.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I do too. I carry around little Darah.
Yeah.
And I think as adults, like that's one thing that we don't really encourage is, you know, us talking to that inner self.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I do have to talk to myself because I have to literally check myself because
Yeah.
I can get into that mode. Like you said, we want to know the details. We want to know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen.
Yep.
And oftentimes I have to be like, Darah, just calm down. Like
Yeah.
it's going to be all right.
It's gonna be okay.
And I'm talking to
You gotta
myself.
embrace it. Yeah.
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 But the reason why I'm like that is because of something that has happened in the past or whatever. It's like, you can let that go. It's okay. Like, I got you. Like,
Yeah.
I'm the adult here.
Yeah.
You're the child. Like, you're still within me, but I'm going to make sure that you're good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's good. I would say the reason why I say you're good enough is because, so of course, I never thought that I would end up as a preacher's wife,
Yeah.
pastor's wife.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that.
And with that whole role comes with a lot of platforms.
Yeah.
But it also comes with your own calling
Yes.
from God. And so that whole area have been like a fearful type journey. So I've had to get a lot of confirmation from God. I've had to get a lot of affirmation from my husband and others, like, you can do this. Like, this is what, like, even this podcast right now, this is huge for me because
Yeah.
I'm always the one in the background pushing others because I see everything and everybody except my own self.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, it just goes to show you, like, that's just how we are, like, just
Yeah.
naturally just nurturers. Because even AJ always talks about how, like, my role is always like that supporting cast.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
I don't need to be, I don't want to
Nope.
be,
No.
and that's why he's like, you know, well, she doesn't say anything about the podcast. It's just like, because if it were up to me. Then I would just help him with everything that he needs to get done.
Same here. Same
because I'm
here.
just that type of way.
Yeah,
right?
I'll push you. You succeed. You get all the,
Yes.
everything.
I don't need you to
Like,
clap for me. I don't need to come on stage.
No.
I don't need the light to be on me.
No.
Like, none of that. So I'm
Yeah.
glad that you said that.
Yeah.
So when it came down to becoming Lady Mel, I mean, were you always this awesome? Like, were you this good at it? Was there one day when he was then, you know, of course, you know, brought into being a pastor, you know, ordained, everything. And then you were like, did you wake up and you were like, okay, well, let me just be this fabulous? Or did you just become, like, is this something that's been a everyday?
It's every day evolving.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like, because of course when we first started pastoring, I still hadn't embraced it. I didn't want it.
Yeah.
You know,
okay,
like,
because I have a friend who's dealing with that right
Yeah,
now.
I was nice to people because I'm just naturally a nice person.
Yes.
But I just didn't want. I knew what it came with. You know, being in front of people. It kind of like a lot of times the people will try to put titles on you. I didn't feel like I was called to preach like most first ladies and different things like that. So the whole pressure of being something that they feel that you should be. You know, I wasn't ready for that. I didn't feel like dealing with that. I'm an introvert.
Yes.
So
yes.
having to talk to people all the time, be in the spotlight. Hey, how you doing? All that. Nah. No.
Yeah.
So it was, but I've always cared for people. So I think that was one of the things that really kind of qualified me or helped me be the first lady that I am today, is because I've always cared for people.
Yeah.
Like just genuinely cared. That's one of the main characteristics that you have to have as a pastor.
Like, I'm gonna use you, girl. You love the people.
Yeah, I love
use
the
you.
people.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's kind of what made it natural, I guess. And then, of course, the congregation that God blessed us with, they are very loving and they're supportive. So one thing that I can say about our women's ministry is they allowed me to be on this journey. Like they never really kind of gave me that pressure of being someone that I wasn't, or like if they felt like if you have your different spiritual levels, I should be here because I'm a pastor's first lady. You know what I'm saying? Like they've grown with me. They've watched the journey and now they applaud like where I am. So that's helped me. Do
you think that, I'm sorry for cutting you off. Do you think that has to do with your level of transparency though on your journey?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because some people don't realize that the reason why somebody is holding them to a standard is because they've put the standard out there.
Yeah.
Like I told my friend, if I never know that you need help,
yeah,
I'm not going to ask you,
no.
do you need help? Like there are some people who do have that sort of intuitive nature, right? Like I just
right.
want to know, like you look like distressed.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
But there's some people who are going to be like, every time you pop out, you using money.
Yeah.
So I don't think you have money problems. But they may very well have money problems.
Yeah.
But if what you give is I can lend it to you all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I'm not going to think that I need to lend anything to you because you're always out here,
Yeah.
So what type of advice would you give somebody who right now is coming into the position of being a first lady and they're just like, I don't know.
Number one, be yourself. Like, I can't stress that enough. Trying to be someone that you're not. People they recognize fakeness. They recognize like photocopy.
Yeah.
And you gain the respect of the people when you are yourself, when you are transparent. We all have a story to tell. God doesn't give us a story for us to just keep it to ourselves.
Nice.
It's there to tell the story. So when we first became pastor and first lady, I said straight up, like, I'm not Pastor Jackie. I am Melanie.
Yes. And that's who I can be.
Yeah, this is all I know to be.
Yeah.
My style, what I wear, how I wear my hair has nothing to do with my heart for God. Period. So I kind of had to I don't want to use the word get that straight because I didn't come from that type of.
Yeah, like you weren't given
Yeah, but I just let them know like I'm going to be me, and the best way that you can help me help you is to let me be me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's dope. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna move on to a little bit of a weightier discussion.
Okay.
Do you mind if we discuss sexuality?
No.
Okay, cool.
It's needed.
Yes, I was gonna say. So, do you believe that sexuality should be discussed in church?
Absolutely.
All right. How soon?
Like
how
away,
early?
like
But like as far as like do we talk about it to our children? Do we talk about it to just our young adults? Like how old would you say like we should just introduce that sort of topic
in
the
church?
Yes. In church.
I would definitely say teenage.
Yeah.
Like as long as you are transparent with the parents, let them know like what is going to be discussed. Now there is a certain level of teaching because you're in a church setting when it comes to the teenagers and their parents are learning in the main sanctuary and your teens are off. And so as a parent, I kind of want to know what's being shared with my child. But so there's definitely a level that you kind of have to cap out at unless we're all together in the, in the same space where the teenagers are with the adults. And let's just say it's like, we as pastors and we have our youth pastors with us on a panel and then you can kind of go deeper because you're with your parent. But if we're separated, definitely to a certain level. But yeah, they should definitely know what God thinks about sex.
Yeah,
You know,
and that's
how
and
he
that's
created it, how he designed it. Because if they don't learn in church or at home, they're gonna learn it at school.
and that's what I mean, right?
Yeah.
Because my whole thing is, it's just like school. People think that you send your children to school to like learn everything. Like you don't learn anything at home, but your home is where you learn most of the stuff that you need for life.
Absolutely.
And if you're not talking to your children, like the church is that, like the
Yeah.
church is the heartbeat, right?
Yeah.
Like you literally have to talk about everything because again, like you said, if you don't introduce it to them, then they're going to learn it from the world. And mostly they're learning it from people who don't know anything about
anything.
it.
Or
Like a lot
of
of
TikTok.
Yes. A lot of the things that I learned about sex, I learned from people who were not having it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
And so, but that glory be to God that I wasn't one of those people who went out there with that sort of knowledge because I had that level of discernment. Again, glory be to God.
Yeah.
That I was like, girl, are you even having, like, I asked the question, like, are you even having sex? Because you talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
most of them are like, no, I just read it in a book.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And so I feel like, yes, you do have to have a level of transparency with the parents, right? Because that's their covering.
Yeah.
But I do feel like it's important that they talk about, you know, sex in the church, but I don't
Yeah.
feel like that's always been the case.
Yeah, it hasn't because I don't know, like I think the older generation, it was always, I don't know, an embarrassment, I guess, or like,
Yeah.
oh no, this is God's house. We're not going to
Taboo.
talk about that. But
It's like you're having it though.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
so,
very, so I know you don't have all the answers or anything, but I just always wonder like how that could be introduced without it, because it doesn't have to be raunchy. It doesn't have
Right.
to be perverted.
Yeah.
That's the word that I was
Yeah.
looking for. Like
Yeah.
there's a way to introduce sex to young adults where it's like this A plus B equals C.
Yeah.
Right. All that other stuff, like you know, boom. But this is what happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you were a virgin when you got married.
Yes.
So how important is that message? Because that's something that AJ and I talk about a lot on this podcast. When he marries his wife, what? Why you look at me like that? He's already said that the woman that he's going to marry, he's never going to touch. He's not. He will
Awesome.
not have touched her before he got married. He said that's what God has told him.
Awesome.
The same thing I've had revealed to me. This is a while ago, right? It ain't happened before. I lost my virginity,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Yeah.
But God has already told me that it's not even. I'm not even supposed to go there with anybody's son until we have wed.
Okay.
So how do we promote, or in your opinion, do you think that that's something that the girls need to continue to like know and seek and maintain?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
At all. I mean, you know, we're living in a different world now.
Yeah, we are.
And virginity is very rare. Not to, you know, say anything foul against anyone who have lost their virginity. But I would definitely say encourage that. I mean, not even with just the women, the men. Like boys. Like right now, we're talking to our guys. We have 3 sons, 13, 9, and 4.
Yes.
And so we're talking to them now about sex. What is it? How it was designed. This is what you're going to experience in your teenage years, your adolescent years, things like that. And still preach saving yourself for your wife, although it's not popular anymore.
It's really not.
But you know, it's definitely, that's our responsibility as parents. I would even go even further to say that's the responsibility of any adult if they are in someone's life, a child's life, is to really kind of promote abstinence if they at all possible can.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
it's hard. It's very hard. Not to say it wasn't. Like, it was hard saving my virginity for.
Yeah, I was gonna say, was that intentional? Was it an intentional thing, or was it one
Yeah.
of those things that it just happened because you hadn't?
It was intentional.
Okay.
Yeah, I had really just kind of like said this. That's just what I wanted. Like, I really kind of didn't want to have sex before marriage.
Yeah.
Because I know that was a sacred thing, and I wanted between my husband and I to experience that sacredness. But I also made a promise to my mom.
I was gonna ask you where you thought about it. Like, did your mom talk to you about
They
sex?
talked to us about it. But my mom wasn't that type of religious person where, you know, it's real. She wasn't a virgin when she got married. And so she did, because she's a nurse, she would always be like, okay, Mel, I want you to save yourself for your husband.
Yeah.
However, here's the real side. Like, if you
Yes.
just have to have sex, I need you to wrap up. I need you to make sure you have protective sex. So she taught me about that whole arena too, because again, from her medical background, she knew what she didn't want to happen. She got pregnant in high school, so she didn't want that for me either. But so she wasn't so super spiritual where it was just so one-sided. It was balanced.
Yes,
it
I
was
love
balanced.
that.
So that's the same thing, and I learned that from her. So that's the same thing I would tell our sons. Like, if you have to have it, because again, is even the world is way different now than it was when Juan and I was growing up, when we were growing up. So
the click of a button, honey.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just on your regular
absolutely
television.
So if you're going to have sex, if you're going to make that decision, although you have the teaching, I need you to make smart decision and have protected sex.
Yeah, and I think that the reason why I asked was it intentional is because for me it was not. I knew that I wasn't ready, but when I lost my virginity, the reason why that was so is because that my mother did not talk to me. And I'm not blaming my mother, absolutely not. It's not her fault, right?
Sure.
But my mother wasn't a nurse.
Yeah.
My mother was a teacher. She was a single mom. You know, after a while, she was doing the best that she could. I understand that now at the age of 38.
Yeah.
I did not understand that coming up because I'm trying to figure out, like, why mom tried to talk to me when I was 23, and I'm just like, girl, the bird is flown.
Yeah.
Like, we can talk about it, but I'm gonna be able to tell you some things. But I didn't feel comfortable because, again, that door wasn't open for me. It was never like, come sit down, boo. Like, let's talk about guys. Let's talk about men. Let's talk about sex. Let's talk about, how you're gonna feel and if you are gonna want it. See, I was in college. I had just, experienced the breakup.
Yeah.
I just wanted to feel something, and I was definitely going through like a depressive state because I had moved away from my family, my unit, like everything. I lost my grandfather. It was just different. It was like a lot. It was a whirlwind, and I just needed something to grasp. Yeah. I know there are a lot of young ladies who are dealing with that right now. If you don't have somebody to talk to sit down with, and so forth and so on, you can run to something that is unknown, that like everybody's talking about it, or I just want to be a part of that. Like, I just want to be a part of the trend. But I knew after it happened that wasn't the road in which I was supposed to go down. But it's like, it's done. But a part of you, because you've done it already, because the Band-Aid has been ripped off, a part of you continues to go down that road because again, after it happened, I ain't called my mama like, hey, guess what?
And they're trying to fill that void, and then the next thing you know, it's like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? But it's like you were trying to find love, like they say, it's a cliche, but trying to find love in all the wrong places, or the father wasn't in their lives. At the conference, Fantasia was there, and she was saying how she didn't have her father in her life, so she didn't really have, she didn't know her self-worth. She didn't know her value, and so that void she thought she could find in a boyfriend. And next thing you know, it's 16 guys later that you're like, oh my gosh, okay, and you finally kind of like wake up. But that's the whole journey, that's the whole maturity part. And so which is why it goes back to like kind of like our first, what we were talking about, how important it's for leaders to be in the community and in their church. So for me as a first lady, like, I'm constantly talking to our teens and really trying to we don't necessarily talk about sex all the time, but I create that safe space for them,
so
and that
that's
relationship
what y'all want to talk about.
that we can talk about it. And we talk about everything, so I try to make sure that I'm available for them, so that we can talk about everything so that I can help the parents teach.
Because it's not even just sex, right? No. It's how do you spend your money? Right? Because you're going to be doing that for the rest of your life.
Money, career.
Yes.
Decisions.
And being okay
general.
that you don't know. Exactly. Because and I have a lot of godchildren. AJ has a lot of godchildren too. And the one thing I can say is, like, glory be to God that he was able to give us that, because neither of us have children. But that's what I try to be, is that like well-rounded godmother. Like, hey, like we even did an episode with my goddaughter sitting right where he is, where we were talking about the attraction. She wanted to talk about, what was it? How do you attract the opposite sex or something like that? She wanted, and it was weird because she's only 11, but that was something that was really important to her. So okay, let's do an episode, because what I'm not going to do is be like, girl, why you want to talk about that?
And a lot of times they do, adults do, because I don't know if they're embarrassed,
and it's weird because like you've been there.
Right.
You was 11. And now it is a different age. But more than anything, it was that you couldn't talk to your parents about it, but it wasn't that you weren't thinking of it.
Right.
So it's like, now, why isn't it that we then, something clicks in our head where it's like, what would I have needed at that time? you know?
Yeah.
So-
Which is what will also help you if parents would just kind of think that way.
Yeah.
What did I need when I was growing up? And
But
that's
again, I think that's because we're muting that inner child. Go ahead. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, you're fine. I was just going to say that's what I actually told a young lady probably a couple of months ago. Like, because she was like, I don't know. Her child is a teenager now. And she was like, I don't know, like, how to talk to her about these different things. A lot of it is because some of them just don't know, like, how do I approach it? And I was like, well, what would you have wanted your parent to do, your mom to do that you didn't have now that you're older? And you're like, man, if I would have had this, then that would have saved me from making this decision, that decision. So I was like, same way. Think about what you had at that moment what you did not have, what your mom or your parents did not talk to you about that you would have wanted that could have helped you from making certain decisions. She was like, I never thought of it like
because most people don't see themselves. That's another thing that we talk about constantly. Most people just are not aware of the space that they take up.
Yeah.
Most people, because of the fact that they didn't receive it, they like, you don't deserve it either.
Yep.
Like, I was listening to a podcast about, I think it's called Black Girl Heals or something like that. But they were talking about the mother wound. And in the mother wound, it's basically like, I did not have a good mother, so you ain't gonna have one either.
Wow.
What?
Wow. Yeah.
And it's like, because you don't understand your value though.
Right.
But if you never deal with that, and that's again why I talk about like muting that inner child. Some people literally have a piece of masking tape over or duct tape over the mouth of their inner child.
Yeah.
They're not allowing themselves to heal because of the fact that like they don't want to even visit that.
So when
like,
they don't,
I'm an adult now, I'm powerful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
just gonna do the same thing that somebody else did to me, and it's just like,
Yeah.
nah, that ain't the way.
No, because you're spilling over. Like your wound is spilling over
That's it.
to your children, not
it.
even realizing it, and not even just your children, your spouse too.
That's it. That's it. Everybody's affected. Everybody's affected.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So just a couple more things, and I don't want to hold you all night. I know you guys
AJ
back
got
to
a
your
question.
family. Oh, go ahead. You got a question?
Yeah, while you was talking about the sex thing, it's a two-part question.
Sure.
Do you feel like the church is doing a good job, an effective job, with leading our children and our teens in a path of purity, to stay away from sex until marriage, or practice abstinence? No. You don't hear about it a lot. Not to say that churches aren't talking about it or their youth groups aren't talking about it. I can't speak for, other ministries, but, as a whole, you kind of hear in general what and you kind of see the trend of churches and what they're teaching and things like that. So I would say, no, we're really not doing a good job.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's all of us.
Because I see a lot of, you got a lot of professed believers. People say they're Christians, but having a whole lot of premarital sex,
Right.
popping out babies and everything, and a lot of them are influencers. A lot of them have like names, they're big names that we know, and then your children see this.
Yeah.
And then because those people are influencers, they're highly revered, and our children see this, and it's like what they're seeing counters what we're telling them.
Right.
So how do we make our own voices more effective to them, to show them like, no, like,
Yeah.
purity is value, like, hold yourself sacred.
I think it's because of lack of accountability. A lot of times in churches, and you could say this is a stereotype, but it's kind of factual. A lot of like the music department are the ones that are really like in this whole, I'm in the church, but I'm also impregnating, women, or as a woman, I'm praise and worship leader and I'm getting pregnant, or whatever the case may be. And because as a pastor, I need your gift because you're moving my crowd,
Then I'll
you're
look
growing
over
my
it.
church. It just kind of get looked over, or it's compromised.
Mm.
So a lot of times from from children's church to youth church, they see that, and because the accountability is not there, oh, it's okay. Like there was no consequence for that. So, so lack of teaching, lack of accountability, and really leaders holding other leaders in the church to a standard.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I think that what you said earlier was powerful about you being a first lady. I think it's the transparency too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because just because you're in a leadership position does not mean that you are God. Like you,
Right.
it
Yeah.
don't mean that you're not tempted. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean that you don't fall short. Right?
Right.
We all sin. We sin daily.
Yeah.
Right. But let's talk about like how that happened. Like how I don't want you to be like that though.
Right.
Like this is what happened to me. Like, you know, all of us, any of us could have been, you know, pregnant at, you know, before we got married or whatever the case might be. But here I am. This is what happened. You know, we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, let's have a discussion about it. Like, not to make you feel like you have the scarlet letter, because I ain't about nobody like, you know, Sister Ann being a, you know, reason for us having a discussion.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the fact that, like, this is what happens in our church.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
How can we prevent it?
Yeah.
This is how it happens, you know, boys and girls.
Yeah. I mean, Juan, was it Sunday or the Sunday before last? He was preaching. And then he was talking about, you know, how I did save myself for him. He was like, but don't think I didn't try it. Like, I tried it. He was like, but she, you know, held her ground. She was like cling cling, and then I kind of made a joke and kind of did this motion in church. So the church was like, you know, but we're very transparent, like, because again, I was 18, he was 20.
I was about to say he was 20.
Yeah, like, you know, so that's not to say we didn't kiss, and then when you kiss, you wake up things and stuff happens, and so there was plenty of time I had to be like, no, we gotta stop.
And that's what we need to talk about. That because even as a 38-year-old woman, there have been times where it's like it get real hot,
it get heated,
and they're like, well, what's the decision? I'm like, no,
like
because of him. But that's why you gotta cultivate that relationship too. Like you really do have to encourage the relationship that kids have with God,
right?
And how at an early age I was taught that He's always watching.
Absolutely.
Because some people think that you can turn it off, like you turn off the television.
Yeah, no.
Like Big Brother not looking. No, God is always God is watching everything that you do.
Absolutely.
But because of the fact that He's watching everything that I do, that's why I can't. Like, there's not enough kisses that you can do.
Right. Yeah. Your love for God has to be greater than anything that will stop you. Like He understands the flesh.
Absolutely.
And so we always say the flesh is a mess. We don't care who bones his own.
Yeah.
we always say that.
I love it.
So things got heated when we were dating, but you know, when you think about the love for him and when you allow the Holy Spirit to lead and guide you and convict you, when that conviction comes in, like that's when you be like, sorry, you know.
And that's why it's more weighted now than it was when I was 18. See, 18, it's like I knew God was watching me, but I was like, risk it all. You know what I mean? Like, because it's like, I'm 18, so I'm thinking I got more time.
Yep.
But as a 38-year-old, like, I'm like, nah, I'm not playing with God. First of all, I've been through things. And that's another thing that kids need to be exposed to too. Not saying everything, because that's what I told my homegirl. I was like, you know, because she lost her mom. And she said she just didn't want to like cry around her kids. And I said, well, one thing that we have, especially as Black women, and you let me know if you can identify, a lot of times, like, I didn't see my mom cry a lot when I was growing up. I saw her cry maybe like a few times. But I feel like because of that, I had this very skewed understanding of what a Black woman is or what a woman is and you know, altogether, because of the fact that I thought that, like, it's weak for you to cry. But it's not weak for you to cry. You got to cleanse. Crying is a cleansing.
It is.
I still have a problem to this day, Lady Mel. I'm not even holding you. Crying.
Wow.
Sometimes when I want to.
Yeah.
I cannot get it out. Like, it's not even, you know,
but that's because I think that's too because we feel like we always have to be the strong one. We always have to hold it.
And why? Because of our
together.
mothers.
Yeah, right.
Because we saw it.
Yeah. So I think, but we should be as transparent as at all possible in front of our children, you know? So I think that because it will spill over, you know? So I think for me, it was the complete opposite. My mom, I saw her in every type of emotion, every season.
Yes, I love that.
And it really helped shape me of what I'm going to do, what I'm not going to do. And although she didn't have like a lot of detailed conversations as to, hey, don't make the same mistake I made, this, that, and other, but just watching her and because she was herself around me and didn't hide, I learned from that too. But I think as far as your mom, she's just probably it was always like, we have to have it together.
She gets it done.
Yeah.
She gets it done. But the thing is, though, my mother's value could never be in what she does. It's who she is. But that's not how we see. Like, that's why we're always like, I always make a joke, but it's really sad. But I say, if you want to get something done, ask a black woman to do it.
Yeah.
Because she's going to get it done. She might not
is.
have, she might not have it together, but she's going to make sure that it gets done.
Absolutely.
But here's the thing, though. That's not why she deserves love.
Very true.
And that's the part that we miss.
Very true.
You are not loved, Lady Mel, because you are Lady Mel.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
You're loved because you are Melanie Wilder. God has created you in a, fabulous way, just as you are.
Right.
If you didn't do anything else, you are worthy of love.
Absolutely.
And that's what I want to get to these young ladies.
Yeah.
Because if you know the value of yourself, just being God's child,
Alone.
then you don't gotta find,
No.
Tom, Dick, and Harry to go up inside you and tell you how much they love you during that session,
Right.
And be gone and be out,
Yeah.
And you're wondering how do I pick,
It's,
So-
it's very important. Yep.
Yeah. So, what's your question?
It's a question for both of you. 'Cause
Sure.
You got to cultivate that relationship with God with them while they're young.
Uh-huh.
When did you know, or when did you realize you had a relationship with God, and how did you know you had a relationship with God?
Oh, that's
good.
The guest.
That's a question I've never heard anybody.
When did I know I had a relationship with God? I knew. So growing up, my cousin was always my aunt, right? Going back to them, his father was always my cousin's father, which is my aunt's husband, was always a pastor. Like, they were pastoring before my cousins were born, so that's all they know, right? So he, growing up, was just always like a believer, just saved from little on up, and he would always just try to get me saved, and I would be like, and of course I grew up with my mom, so she kind of brought that balance. It wasn't too much church. She allowed us to go to prom. She allowed us to go to, things with the school. Whereas my aunt, which is her sister, it was strictly Christian stuff. Church. Her kids it was locked, and So he would always be like, you need to give your life to Christ and yada yada yada. And I was like, I'm going to give my life to Christ when I know that I'm going to be really ready to
do that.
to walk that walk. So it was at the age of 16 when I was it 16? Yeah, 16 when I gave my life to Christ. And I don't know. It's you growing up in church, you kind of know, once you kind of say the repentant prayer, you kind of oh, you're saved by faith. You're saved, right? So I would go to church, try to do the right thing, whatever. But you kind of you're young, so knowing that you just kind of you're going to church, you're trying your best to do the right thing. It really wasn't until I had I would say an encounter with God where I really felt His presence in just one of my prayer times. And that came after marriage.
Wow.
I don't know, maybe 19, 20, somewhere up in there. And when I really felt His presence for the first time, and it's a feeling that it's God. It doesn't matter what there's no other feeling. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
That's kind of when I knew my relationship with God was real, because even having being saved at 16, you pray, but you never really understand that it's a two-way communication. God's supposed to talk back to you too. So sitting down, having that quiet time to where you can hear from Him. At 16, you ain't really trying to do that. It's you checking the box. All right, I prayed. Yep. Read my scripture for the day. Yep. All right, cool. I'm going to church when I need to go, doing whatever, blah. So it was really when I had an encounter, and I wasn't expecting that encounter with God. I was like, whoa, what just happened? And what was the other
That
part?
was it.
No, you did it.
How did you
You
know?
said it.
Okay.
So you have a relationship with God. There's something that defines you.
Yeah.
We have, whether it's a client service relationship or whether it's a friendship, we have this relationship. That you have a relationship.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Gotcha.
How would one know that?
Yeah.
I would say how would one know, because everybody's different.
Right.
But how did y'all know?
Yeah.
Oh, we in a relationship now.
Yeah, for real. I mean, for real, it was that encounter that I knew it was definitely a Holy Spirit that had taken over in my prayer time. And it was so overwhelming. And I was just like, this is what this is all about. You know, and then of course that started the whole journey of really getting serious with God and so forth and so on. So yeah,
I love that. My story is a little different because my mom I was raised Muslim. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
See, there you go.
Wow.
He asked me if I was gonna ask you questions that I didn't know about you, and I was like, yeah, like who asked the same questions? And I was like, she's probably gonna learn something too. But yeah, I was raised Muslim.
Okay.
My mother, my dad is a PK, but he wasn't really like, he didn't really like go to church, and I'm sure it was like, you know, church hurt and things like that, or just him, you know, trying to deal with whatever's going on with him. But my mom would take us to the mosque and everything. Like we would literally do it. I will say that that's when my relationship started, and I'll say the reason why is because I've always wanted to please God.
Okay.
I've always, like, I'm thinking about it, like, because I'm trying to think if I was ever one of those kids that was like buck wild, like I just do my own thing. And of course there were times where I would get disciplined, all this other stuff, but I was always the one, you know, I want to pray, I want to read even if it was the Quran, like I wanted to do the things that were pleasing to God. And again, like I told you, I knew early on that God was always watching. So there was just a way that I would govern everything based off of that.
Okay.
So did I lie? Sure. Yeah. Did I like break things and blame it on my sister? Absolutely. But I knew that like when it came down to like that structure and wanting to please God, that was always there. Now, it wasn't until I was 24-ish, like around there, when I knew that like we locked in, because I started talking to God like I'm talking to you.
Yep.
At first it was like very like, you know, because, you know, with Islam, it's very much like you pray 5 times a day. There's that religiosity. Like it's like you're checking off the boxes, right?
Yeah.
But when it came down to me talking to God the way in which I talked about it, and I was thinking about that grace and that mercy that only comes from Christ Jesus, right? I was like, God, I just need you to tell me. Like, I'm walking around an empty house, y'all, because I was displaced because I didn't graduate on time from college. I was going through like a really deep depression. I was like, yo, God, like, what's up? Like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do. Like, you gonna have to show me the way. I'm literally talking to him like that in an empty house, loud. Show me what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Because I know that I don't have it in me to carry it on, because I've tried all that I can. At this point, I need you to show me what to do. So after that, I got baptized like that following year, or maybe like a few months later. And I took, because I was equating God with my earthly father. Okay. And I took them apart. Explain. I took them apart. Like, I was literally giving God the same attributes as I gave my earthly father, like my biological father. And I was like, he ain't that. Yeah. Because he created him. Right. So I was like, you know, God can do anything. At that point, I'm like, God can do anything. I can trust in God. Like, I literally can walk this life without worry, because God doesn't have the limitations that my earthly father has. Got it. When I took them apart, it was like, boom, like I'm just gonna do life. Okay. And it was life changing. Like I can't even express how I moved differently after that. What got you to the point where you had to take them apart? I remember when it happened, I was in the shower and I was like, you know, Lord, I was just praying again, still talking to God moments. In the same way. Yes, we have our shower moments. We talk about this, y'all. Like, Lady Mel has these epiphanies, and like she feels like she gets the greatest ideas in the shower, and I feel like that too. Like, I feel like everything is cleansed away, and I literally have space to just think about whatever it is that I need to think about. But that's when it came to me. It was like, why do I try to put you in this box, God? Like, I need to stop making it seem like you're like him, because again, I'm still that child. I'm still 8 or 7 or 6 or whatever. So I'm thinking about my dad, but it's like, no, but you're my holy father. Like, you're the one that you the end all and be all, and he doesn't have that. He has limitations. Got it. And at that time, me and my earthly dad, we were rocky, because of course he was feeling away about the divorce, about him and my
Gotcha.
mom, you know,
Okay.
not being together. And so then he was kind of like acting out, which what any human being would do,
Sure.
towards us.
Oh, okay.
So we hadn't seen him in like 2 years, and it was like, this ain't what you do. Like we
Yeah.
was raised in the house with you,
Yeah, I got you.
but understanding that he's just a man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like he's gonna be upset.
Mm-hmm.
He has a right to have protest behavior because that's what somebody would do when they're angry or upset or whatever the case.
Yeah.
But that's not how God works.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So once I took the two apart, that's when I knew
Yeah.
that my relationship was that.
I would say to go back to you were saying when that whole encounter, we were married and we had hit a financial situation. So of course, when times get rough, what you do, you're gonna pray.
Yes.
So
That part.
yeah,
So what it sounds like is there came a time where both of you were
you really needed. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
so improved.
And we had to trust.
He showed up.
Because
Absolutely.
and God, but here's the thing, he always does.
Always.
But I think it was us uncapping the fact that we then recognized it. Like, no, we can really follow. We can really trust.
Mm-hmm.
That was what it was, because I ain't trust nobody.
Yeah.
So I wasn't trusting God because I'm
Yeah.
like, but then after that I was like, oh, I trust you. Like, I'm
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Good
last two
question.
things, because I know that was an excellent question. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah.
Last two things,
Yeah.
just because it's a big womanhood aspect.
Mm-hmm.
How can we encourage women who don't have children and don't want children to maintain confidence in God and self?
Ooh. How can we encourage them that do not have children?
They don't have them,
Uh-huh.
or they don't want them, because there's some women who don't want kids.
Mm-hmm. What was the latter part of that?
To basically maintain their confidence in God and self, because some people, like we talked about, how the woman is the one who births the children.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we're the nurturers.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, that's like taboo for you to even say that. Like, you don't want kids? What you mean? Like,
Right.
I've had people say that to
Yeah.
me. Not that I don't want kids. I want kids, guys. But still.
Yeah. My boss, she doesn't want kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she's still a woman.
She's still a woman.
Yeah.
But she's in love with her. Like, she's kind of like a mother figure for her niece.
Boom.
So, I would just encourage them to, okay, if you don't want children, that doesn't mean that something's wrong with you as a woman, right? You just don't want children.
Mm-hmm.
So you could take advantage of that and really do all that you want to do, and really explore. Like, I would encourage her to tap into self, like to really, really see what it is in life you want to accomplish, and go for it, because you have no limitations of, not that children are a bondage or anything like that, but you don't have really any limitations of motherhood. And so you really can pursue whatever it is that you want, from a career perspective, as well as God. Like, you have no interference with anything. And you can really just be the best, be all you can be for God. So I would encourage her to continue to press forward, continue to really tap into who she is, who God created her to be, find that purpose, and give it 100%.
Do you feel that as women, like, just going down that same vein, do you feel as women, though, that we do have responsibility for for other women and children?
Sisterhood is what it's called, right? So, yeah. So, yeah, I can, that whole accountability, like you and I, right? I do feel like it's part of our responsibility, part of our journey to ensure, like, it's my responsibility to ensure that you're good, you're healthy in all areas, like, in the natural, in the spiritual, emotionally, like mentally. I often ask women, how is your mentee? How's your psyche? Like, how are you doing? So yeah, I would definitely say that it's our responsibility, because if I love you as my sister, I want nothing but the best for you. So how can I help you in any area of your life? Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. So that's where I was going with that.
Yeah.
So first I want to say that when I said responsibility for the women and the children, I meant just that, like, we are natural nurturers.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, and that if you don't have that, obviously, then there's something, because I really feel like that's what God placed like that's like our role, right? I don't believe that it certifies you as a woman or not a woman if you don't have children or don't want them. But I do feel like there is a level of nurturing that you have to foster as a woman, in order to, you know, maintain that womanhood. So that I'm glad that you said sisterhood, because here's my next question.
Okay.
Dun dun dun.
Oh, they're getting deeper and deeper.
How do you believe? Because we talk about toxic masculinity. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But we don't really talk about toxic femininity. And when I say that, I'm talking about the pride of women. Tell me if you understand.
Pride
these.
of women? Okay.
Yes. These are quotes.
Okay.
Let me clean my house before my house gets cleaned. You got somebody coming over, a maid service. You want to clean your house before the maid comes. Mm-hmm. I don't want to hang with...
Guilty.
I don't want to hang with or mess with females.
Guilty.
I'm an independent woman.
Okay.
How do you believe that we can do away with this type of thinking? And first of all, do you identify with all of those? And then also, do you feel like that is toxic femininity?
What is your definition of toxic?
Well, so for me, the reason why I said
that
is because we talk about toxic masculinity as being, you know, oh, that's gay. Like, when guys are that way, right?
Yeah.
But we don't talk about how we will be like, I don't mess with females, or, I'm an independent woman, things like that, because we use our femininity almost as, I have to be like this perfect thing, or I am, an island.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out if you can identify with those things, and if you have, how have you tackled those things, and then also,
Well, so I was guilty of saying I don't really feel like I don't deal with females because
I know we talked about this.
Drama.
That's why I asked you.
Yeah,
like I asked you.
I don't know. It just seemed like we're very emotional people, creatures.
Yes, we are.
And a lot of times it's sad, but drama is there when it's a lot of females in one area, or if there's a lot of, like, if there's a friendship and there's multiple, it's more than, I would say, 2, 3. Yeah, more
right,
than 2
2 very low, right?
I mean, I'm serious, because it could be a lot of drama between 2 females. I mean, honestly,
it can be.
With personalities, like our personalities can be, but so I was that one, because with males, like, you don't have to deal with that. Like it's chill. I don't know if it's because we're too different, women and men, and we're just different. I don't know. But then I kind of had the reality, like, girl, you're a woman. Like, what do you mean? Like, so I had to change that. But of course that comes with maturity.
Yes.
Because I feel like if you study the person enough, then, there are just ways that you can really figure out how to be around more than several women. And if you promote sisterhood, like, we're all supposed to be building each other up, congratulating each other, pushing each other, encouraging each other. So if we all kind of adopted that mentality, then you wouldn't have the toxic of women.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I was guilty of that. And then the whole cleaning up before the maid, that's me.
Yes.
I don't know, like, I'm just like, I don't want these people coming here thinking like she is nasty, she is messy. So I don't,
the details, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A man literally be like, I mean, what are they coming for? Honey?
Right, I know, but it's just like, at least straighten up so that they can even get in the door.
Oh, honey, that's me. That's the reason why I'm saying all of these things is because now the only thing that I can identify is that I don't hang with or mess with females, and the reason why I don't find that wasn't the issue for me is I think that's just because of the way that I was raised, right? And I think that there's a level of disbanding that can happen or disengaging that can happen when you just aren't in the competition with everybody else.
Yeah.
So whenever I find myself, even with the mean girls, I was telling AJ, like, I've gone into crowds of women and it's like they want to give that to me, but I don't, like, it doesn't penetrate.
Yeah.
Because I don't see it. I'm blind to it. You know, they say, like, I can't,
yeah. Well, for me, so I don't do drama, right?
Right, exactly.
So it never affected me, but it was all the females around,
Right, and you notice it,
and
and
I
you're
was
like,
just
"Ugh,
like,
I
y'all
don't
know
want
what,
that."
like, yeah, like I
Yeah.
don't feel like dealing with this. So I would always want to be like in my career, I would always want to be on a team of men, you know, because you just didn't deal with that. But what I did find out is men are just as messy.
Yeah.
Right, they gossip just as much as we do, and I was like, I didn't know that.
But they are quicker to let it go, though.
True, very true.
They are messy. They do
Yeah.
gossip. They
Yeah.
do all that other stuff.
Yeah.
But what I have found is like we will hold a grudge, honey, until it is not able to be held, honey. We will do it until we about to die. We
That's
gonna
me.
hold on to the collar of that grudge.
That's me. Like, that used to be me. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
yeah, like I had a very stubborn streak, and I would forget you existed.
Ooh.
Although that is very, that is very cruel. But I would, yeah. Like,
But do you think that it's because of the fact that we are so emotional and like we just can't? First of all, we're never going to be able to get rid of our emotions, right? So you
Yeah.
almost have to like work with them, and a lot of times it's like it's almost like singeing the ends of the emotion because otherwise you're going to be mad for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So you almost have to like forget that even existed.
Yeah, I had, that was a work I had to,
Yeah.
and especially as being married, like, I had to work on that. Like,
Ooh, let's talk about that.
oh man, because I would be upset with him, and I wouldn't have to talk to him for weeks. And he was like, "Whoa, wait."
Yeah,
Like,
because that is how y'all gonna be a
what we
team and
doing?
y'all talk.
Yeah. So, but even with that, so I had to basically force myself to grow from that, and
Yes.
it wasn't easy. But when I didn't want to talk or when I didn't want to face whatever, I had to make myself, because it's willpower. Like you control you, and so I was like, okay, I can't allow emotion,
Since you went there,
Go ahead, please.
I'm gonna ask. So you know, you was talking about how he opens the door for you and everything. And I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure there's things that you guys do for each other.
Yep.
When you're at odds, like, do you guys find yourselves withdrawing that? Like, if he's mad at you, do you notice like, oh, he ain't opening the door? Or
Our younger years, yes. But as we grew older, and we realized what's important, life is short. And we were like, you know what? Life is too short for us to really be acting like this. Anything could happen at any given moment.
Facts.
And so when we realized that, we were like, so we make it it's so intentional that if we're upset with each other, if we're getting ready to leave each other's presence, we still have to give each other a kiss, no matter how. And for me, that was a struggle because that stubbornness.
I'm gonna ask you, like, what kind of tactics do you guys?
Oh
have?
God, yeah. I again, well, I had to. You know, you can tell yourself like, no, you're going to do this. You know, like you're going to a lot. Like even if we didn't talk the rest of that day, I still had to force myself to. But that's a rule we set, and we respect that for each other.
I love that.
And our relationship. So that's So the same thing for him. There was plenty of times he didn't want to open my door, and I sat right there. Like,
I was gonna ask you if you just said it.
I sure did. Now there were times that I would try to get out, and he would be like, "Oh, that's what we're doing," and then I would just close, So because he can be prideful, know, and he can be stubborn too a little bit, but yeah, once we matured, we kind of got past that. Yeah,
That's what's up.
yeah, but that's work. Like that's that whole WORK with marriage, because your flesh, like it's what it is. So you don't, you want to do what you want to do. But we both had the mentality like we wanted our marriage a certain way, and so we both knew that it was going to take work, and it still takes work. Even 20 years later, we're still working. Maybe not as hard, but we're working. So yeah,
That's what's up.
Yeah.
No, I love that you did you have any more questions? No, I was just gonna say I love that you had said some things and and I want people to hear that
later in life though, not initially like when we got married, but over the time as we matured, as we set things. But before, like our first year of marriage was horrible. I'll tell anybody it was the worst.
Yeah,
but that was because we were so immature.
Yes,
right?
I was about to say. I would be weirded out if y'all was functioning like 50-year-olds at 18 to 20.
It was the worst. Yeah, but we hung in there.
I was gonna say you stayed in a fight. Though.
Divorce wasn't an option.
Thank you.
So like no. Although I threw it up a lot because of what I seen. My mom had gone through two.
And you were
two
18.
divorces, and I was 18. So I was like, I don't have to stay with you.
Right.
You know, he was like, yes, you do. You know.
right.
So yeah.
Cool. That's what's up. Well, anything that you wanted to add? Anything else you want to ask? Because I've definitely learned so much.
This was great. Like
I do got a couple more questions.
Okay, come on.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Yeah, we here.
All right, so this is from early on. This is just a simple question. Can anybody be a wife?
That's a good question.
Ah, my God.
Right?
I would say yes.
So, and y'all were talking about how your mom or your aunt, whoever, like they would tell you things about being a wife, like you have to be submissive.
Sure.
Blah, blah, blah. Would you say, I want to say, in becoming a wife, I'm not going to say in being a wife, but in becoming a wife, is it more of a general thing? Like a woman could learn this from any woman, or is it that you really have to learn how to be a wife to this husband?
A little bit of both, because this is for a wife or a husband. You really have to study absolutely. You have to study your partner. There are certain times that I know, like if I have an issue with Juan, there's just certain times I know I cannot go to him with whatever's on my mind or my heart, because he's not going to receive it. So you have to really, really study, which is another wisdom. Proverbs 31. If a woman can really study Proverbs 31 and really try to pattern herself after Proverbs 31, she gonna be in there. She can be a wife. Let's just say if she doesn't know about the Bible, like if she wasn't raised in church, and you ask, could anyone be a wife? Yes. Will the marriage probably be rough initially? Absolutely.
Because then you'll just be patterning it after your partner.
Right.
You won't be patterning it after the word of God.
Yeah. Yeah. But you can learn how to be in a relationship and kind of you grow with that relationship, you know, even if they aren't in church, but definitely. So that answers the question of, can anybody be a wife? Yes, but it'll be hard.
You gotta really want it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You got to really want it. And then if you really want something, you're going to study it. You're
Yes.
going to research, you know.
All right, I have 3 more questions.
Okay.
I'll make it fast.
Okay.
You said when you was asking about submission, and I think a little bit before that, you was like making sure you meet the needs of your husband.
Yeah.
So making sure you meet the needs of your husband, does it feel like a chore, or is there a pride in it, or
It's a joy if you love them, if you love him. It should be what you want as a wife. You should always want to please him and meet the need of him. It's an honor. If you really look at it, it's an honor to be a wife. You know, so if you have that mentality, you really should honor well, right? You should honor each other well, and you should serve each other. I should not treat anyone outside of my home better than I treat my husband.
Period. But can I ask you this though? Before those individuals who feel like they are slaves to their marriage or their husbands, what insight would you give to those? Do you feel like it's because their husbands aren't pouring into them as well? Because I feel like like that could be why it's so joyful. Is because it's like y'all are working together.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But what if she's the one that's always
pouring and not receiving? I would say it's still her responsibility. It's still your responsibility as a wife to do what you're supposed to do, because day of judgment, you're going to be held accountable for what you do, regardless of what your partner do. But I would also encourage her to express like how she's feeling, how she feels like she's pouring out and not receiving, because communication is key to a marriage, to any relationship, a friendship, whatever. It's key. And then at that point, if after she's expressed and kind of really still don't see a difference, then at that point I recommend like counseling, maybe get a third party involved, because maybe she's not expressing it to the point of where he's understanding. Yeah. And then again too, it's also in how the woman approach the man, and vice versa. Like you have to approach with sensitivity, and not more so like an attack, because they're not going to receive it if it's from an attack perspective. But it has to be with wisdom, with grace, but with transparency.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had something else, but I forgot what it was. Go ahead.
All right. Purpose. Who found it first, and how did you know what was yours?
Who found it first between Juan and I?
Yeah.
Purpose? He did. He found it first because he was just more advanced than I was in the spiritual walk. And I think it was more so because of his calling as a pastor. He always knew he was called to pastor. So my whole free spirit, I was just like, I'm here. Let's, like,
right,
I'm whatever.
Like, what's up?
Yeah. And then of course in church, like I was a musician. So my whole focus was, I knew I loved God. I was going to church. Let me learn this music. Let me ensure that I'm not interfering with the Spirit of God, and let me make sure I give ministry in excellence. And that's what I did. So it was more so.
How did you find your purpose?
How did I find my purpose? It found me, sort of, kind of. It was like, I would say it was kind of a two-way type thing, because again, I did not want to be a first lady. I didn't even want to marry a preacher. But because I love him and he expressed that he was called to do this, then I had to embrace it. And embracing that, I'm like, all right, if I'm going to be this pastor's wife, then I got to make sure I'm good where I need to be and I'm full so that I can pour into others. So when I did that, which is reading my word, praying to God, you got to talk to me. How do I do, like, same thing with Darah. How do I do this? Like, I've seen my aunt and my grandmother as a first lady, but it's different. Like, what, you know what I'm saying? Like, how do I do this? So in reading my word and in praying, that's how I found purpose, like what I was really supposed to do. And then again, over the years of pastoring, things are revealed to you. Different situations happen. And so now I'm coming into, like, another part of my purpose has been revealed just here recently, like being like that motherly figure for our church, for our congregation. Like, that's just kind of like, so purpose is not just one thing. It's multiple levels, multiple things. Yeah. So as life unfold, then sometimes purpose meet you. So I felt like a part of my purpose met me because of who I was married to and being that first lady, and just kind of tapping into.
I ain't even have this question, but because you said this, I know this isn't your situation, but you have a lot of women, especially around our age, that are single, never married, and they believe they're already walking in their purpose. Do you believe that their purpose, if they desire to get married, should align with the purpose that the husband has?
It not necessarily should align. So if, for instance, Darah, she's single and she's walking in her purpose, if she gets married, then her husband should definitely embrace where she is, what she's doing, what her goals are. And then you come together and find ways to support each other. So I don't feel like, so for her, she may not want, like me, I didn't want to be a pastor's wife, a preacher's wife, no, let alone a pastor's wife. But because he's called to that and we're one, I had to make adjustments. I had to embrace, no matter, because even though I didn't want to. And for him, when he met me, I was a musician, like in a man's world. So that may have been, well, it was uncomfortable for him because I was like in a man's world. But because we love each other and we support each other, we kind of embrace each other's purpose. And then we float from there. So for Darah, whomever God sends in her life, they're going to have to embrace what her purpose is when they meet her.
So I have a question, and did you have anything else?
I got a final question that
you wanted to be our final.
But you can go ahead.
Okay, so my thing was you were just talking about like how you dealt, like within your marriage, how you dealt with certain things. so we know that like marriages are perfect because God is, you know, supposed to be the center, right? But there are some people who that's not the case. But in your marriage, because God is in the center, what you doing when the marriage is not going, you know, great? Like, because everybody's like 100% of the time you're not 100%, right?
Oh,
There's
yeah.
some days you don't even love yourself, so it's hard for you to love somebody else.
Yeah.
What are you doing during those times? Like, talk to the people about like, you know, well, my husband is not pouring into me right now. What do I do? Because a lot of people are trying to cover it with like cheating or, you know, going outside of the marriage or like just therapy or like whatever.
Yeah. Like if they're not being poured into, they're going to cheating or therapy.
Yeah,
or
like
whatever.
stuff is happening in my marriage. Like, where
Yeah.
do I turn? What was your advice be?
Prayer is always.
Yeah.
Prayer is. I mean, God, and a lot of people be like, "Well, I pray and nothing's happening, nothing's changing." But I will also. So prayer is number one. But there's also you have to do self-evaluation too, right? Like you have to really try to figure out. So there's always a root cause to why something is happening. So I would kind of do like self check-ins, like to figure out like, you know, self evaluation. And then I would have the conversation with the spouse. Like, we really do need to have a conversation because this is what I'm feeling. So obviously there is a reason why you're not pouring into me. Can we talk about it? Because this is what I'm needing. Then if that doesn't work, okay, are you open to us getting counseling so that we can I really love you. I want to get to the bottom of this. I want us to have a happy marriage, a peaceful marriage, blissful marriage. And the only way that we can get there is if we get help. And so really face it again, not you doing it. You're not pouring into me. I'm doing this, but you're not. So, because if you go from that perspective, it's not going to be well received.
Is it a red flag for those women whose husbands ain't trying to go to counseling?
Well,
And what they supposed to do?
When you say red flag, I mean, it's already done now.
It's
You
done.
married, right? Yeah.
But like, isn't that a huge thing though? Like, isn't that pretty telling?
Yeah. It's a red flag that something's wrong. Like something, like where did we fall off? Something went wrong. And so at the end of the day, that wife or that husband, because it could be either way.
It could be either way.
They're going to really have to do some digging as to like, and really force that spouse to come forward with, you're going to have to talk to me. Like, I can't live the rest of my life like this. You're really going to have to talk to me. We're going to have to really figure this out.
Okay.
And a lot of praying.
Yeah.
You can't be married. You can't do it by yourself. It's two.
So while you praying, you're still going to bed with him.
It's
you're
frustrating.
Still going to church.
Yeah.
You're still going. You know what I mean?
It's a tough spot.
Yeah, and that's why
Yeah.
I'm trying to get to the small little things, because a lot of
Yeah.
people, they'll tell you to pray and it's just like, well, honey,
I'm
like,
doing that. It ain't working.
I'm doing it every
So
day, but what am I doing also?
Yeah. It's one of those tough spots where there's not much more you can really do.
Yeah.
Like, you can pray, right? And then you can do what you can do. Like, you can continue to pour out your love to him, although it's not being received. Like, you can do all of that. You can talk to him. You can ask for counseling. At the end of the day, if that's not happening. Now, as you know, a spiritual person, first lady, I can't promote divorce.
No.
I will never tell anyone that, right? So sometimes it become hard for us, like as pastors, because in your mind you want to be like, girl,
leave him, leave him.
Okay, you've done everything.
But I get it.
Bounce.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's really one of those things where you just have to keep encouraging her.
But people don't understand like what dying to yourself daily really
Yeah.
means.
Yeah.
Dying to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you literally almost have to
Yep.
look at yourself like a ghost, because you don't even exist in this moment.
No.
It's not about you.
But
that's difficult.
Now, here's the thing. Could it be because it's a consequence that you're paying for because you moved too fast? Or you didn't pray before marrying this spouse?
Boom.
Or, I mean, so there's
It could
several,
be so many things.
You gotta do a part two.
Right.
There's several layers
Yeah,
to
facts.
why you're in the situation that you're in. And 9 times out of 10, it's because the person, whether the male or female, they moved too fast. They didn't listen to wisdom,
Yep.
didn't listen to family members, didn't listen to the spiritual parents that they have in their life. I got this. I know it. Okay, boo-boo.
Okay,
Now here we
yeah,
are.
and now you don't got it.
Here we go. Yeah.
Yeah. Dope. All right, what was your question? Because I don't want to keep her here any longer. I'm not going to capitalize on your time.
So you've been married, what, 20 plus years?
20. Yep.
20 years.
Mm-hmm.
What is the one thing about men that women get completely wrong?
Oh my God. That they get completely wrong.
What did you get completely wrong?
Right, you want to be specific,
You
huh?
had to realize, like,
Oh, I gotta think about that.
That's a good question.
That
though.
is a good question.
Well, she don't think she wrong.
That one. Okay, that they aren't emotional creatures, like that they don't have that sensitive side like we do.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of women think that, and that they don't need that, like they don't need love on the level that we need love. They do.
Yeah, but it's
Because
just don't
it's-
pack. It's not the same.
It's not the same, but every man is a little boy. So, and then if you think about it, as a little boy, if you are, I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but whether it's your cousin, your brother, son, whatever, when they're getting ready to do something, what do they say? Mommy, look. TC, look. You know, like they want you to focus in, zone in. They want to have that affirmation from you. They want to, when it's done, when they've done, they're like, yay, you know, good job, you know, whatever. So that same little boy is in that man.
Yeah,
It's just an older version.
that's good.
So that whole
Girl, we
emotional
can end
side.
on that, honey. Yeah, and she got 3 boys, so y'all know it's real.
Yes, so I'm constantly stroking egos, even my 4-year-old. Like
Yeah.
they are the best.
And
Jordy,
it's
you're
not
the best.
It's not a task, right?
No,
Like it's not like
no, because I want
here I
him-
go in this house with all these egos.
No, it's a joy. I love being a boy mom.
Yeah.
I love being a boy mom. But I'm also like continuing to stroke the ego and like you can do this because I want them to grow up confident. Like a lot of
Yes.
men, they don't get that, and so they grow up with lack of confidence. And when you have a man that don't have that confidence,
It ain't the same, baby.
you got something on your
Yes.
hands. Yeah. So
Yeah.
definitely a lot of men, or a lot of women don't realize that they need that same, they got that emotional side that we have. It's just a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, dope. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Lady Mel, for lending your
course.
presence to
Anytime.
us and letting the
Anytime.
Lord use you.
Yeah.
You guys can find us on all the podcast platforms. You can reach us at Deep Skydiving podcast at gmail.com. Excuse me. We're also on TikTok, Deep Skydiving Podcast, and we're also on Instagram, same name. Again, this is our last episode of the season, and it's going out with a bang. Like,
Yeah,
who
I
else-
will
who
say,
better than
like,
you?
this was great. Oh, thank you. You all are doing, this is absolutely great. Continue to, create this platform for men and women. It's very valuable.
Thank you.
And, someone can receive a lot of nuggets. Like if they didn't have, like we were talking about earlier, if they don't have that growing up, like even platforms like this, you're always learning. So at whatever age they're watching this, there's something from some episode that you all have produced that they can learn from. So this is what impact is. This is what we're supposed to do. This is sisterhood. This is brotherhood. So this is good. Like,
Thank you.
I'm impressed. This is great. Like, this is really, so you really should share this, because you could really help a lot of people, like in different topics that you all have. So I
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
And so we'll be signing off with that. Make it work, y'all. Peace.